Hi, welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. So today I am doing a couple of pieces of abstract art on watercolour paper. I'd attempted to do a wax resist using a tea candle and watercolour, and it just wasn't going anywhere, and unfortunately due to the wax it wouldn't be usable. Anyway, I started with a China pencil and just drew some permanent black pencil marks on the pages. And this is jelly prints that I did with my grandson this morning. So the jelly prints that I use as the collage and the paint that I'm using for, the abstract art pieces is only cadmium yellow, cadmium red and primary blue with white. But the amount of colours that I was able to make with these three colours plus white was unbelievable. And actually, I felt a lot of the colours were very mature looking, but also there was a brightness to both pieces and I was really pleased. And so looking at this very limited red, yellow, blue palette is something I'm going to do moving forward. So I chose to do two pieces, so it's like using an art journal. And also I watch a lot of people like Jackie Schomburg, and she does, she either does a large piece or she does it in an art journal, and there's two going on at the same time. And I wanted to see how that would feel, undertaking two at the same time. So the idea was, in my head, was about, okay, we're creating a set. We want similarities between the two so that it's not strange looking at the two of them at the same time. Also, I was wondering if I would feel less attached because I was working on two at the same time. And so it would be easier to make choices. And the third reason, which is the most important one, is I found myself getting quite obsessed about composition. And I really feel I overthink it, and I actually think it can be quite a hindrance. So with the two out, you've got two composition elements to think about. You've got the single page and then how they're looking together. And I just found that a lot more freeing, and I really didn't think about the composition of the page much at all. So, it actually felt much more relaxing than normal because of that. So I love how vibrant it's looking, and it's such an early stage of the painting. But to me, because there is the kind of more mature colours in there, it doesn't look childlike. Whereas often these red, yellows and blues together can look like that. And I really love the reddy brown shades because I feel like they look like different colours of jams. And it's just really nice. And I feel like, it just makes me happy that I've discovered such a limited colour palette. Apart from anything else, it's going to save me a fortune. So I am going to look at purchasing translucent versions of these paints. The primary blue is transparent, but the cadmium red and the cadmium yellow are quite opaque. So I am going to look into, having a mixture of transparent and opaque versions. And also the white. Now I think mixing white is more transparent, and I'm going to look into that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure it is. So the shapes in the collage is, just from packaging, furniture packaging, and the end of a kitchen roll tube, the circles. And the circles on the white collage that I've got in my hand just now is a large nut and bolt. So a couple of times in the abstract art pieces, I actually use a bit of the packaging just to bring in a bit of cohesion to it. There's also a bit of gold in the collage actually. I used the gold colour to pull them off the jelly plate. So the piece on the right comes together very quickly, and I think those lines that I just put on really lifted it, and you know, that's nearly finished. The one on the left took so much longer, like more than twice as long, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 times as long, because it was harder to bring that together. And I don't know what it was that made it harder. I don't know whether I got lucky with the one in the right, or maybe the one in the right, you know, because I was still trying to make them a pair. So that was quite interesting anyway. Just kind of the one was so easy and the other wasn't. So the paintbrushes that I'm using are not paintbrushes. They are colour shapers. So they are silicone wedges on a paintbrush handle. And so I've only used them a couple of times, so I'm still getting used to them. However, I like the fact that you can make sharp edges with them, and also it minimises obviously the brush strokes, and I do feel that with the translucent colours, you know, you can get quite a sheer finish on it. So like I said earlier, I was making these jelly prints this morning with my grandson, and he is 5 and he's in primary 1, and the primary schools were on strike yesterday, and he just picked it up so easily, and his was actually better than mine. Do you know, I'll put a picture on at the end of his because it was so cute, and he managed to get like 3 layers of colours on the jelly plate with different shapes on each layer as well. And he managed to pull them off really well. I was quite shocked. Anyway, I'm away off at a tangent. So the one on the right, there's just one more bit that I add into it, and that's it completed. And the one on the left, the green and yellow stripe, I really struggled to just pull it together into something that just felt balanced, but also interesting. It felt very blocky. It felt like different areas that weren't gelling together. So that's the one in the right completed now. And to me, I always like to create a situation of what the abstract art represents. Even though it doesn't need to represent anything. To me, the one in the right looks like it's the stairs climbing up to a high diving board to jump off. And so I feel it's quite a positive feeling from it, you know, of kind of being brave. You know, a sense of achievement, setting goals and achieving them. So the kind of blue-grey square on the top left-hand corner of the right picture kind of represents the person that's about to jump off. And the fact they're a bit further back on the diving board, you know, it's not an easy thing for them to do. So you can see that I'm in the kind of desperation stages of this piece, where I'm kind of making quite radical changes. So the green and yellow stripe, I'd put the white paint over, and then I'd lifted that off with a piece of paper while it was still wet, and it's pulled some of the green and yellow paint from underneath as well. So I've stuck that back on, and I quite like how that looks. And for all there is quite a lot of mature colours on these pictures, I do feel that the raw cadmium yellow colour is almost like the feature colour, and so I do want to have that on both pictures. So I can see that I'm being a bit more thoughtful about what I'm doing now, and I'm looking to the one on the right for kind of inspiration. So the kind of step lines are, I'm trying to recreate them in a way that brings them together but doesn't copy it, basically. And I've also mirrored the pencil line on the right picture with mustard paint on the bottom right hand side of the left picture. However, it's still not coming together, and I do end up becoming quite radical again with more colour blocking. However, I was really happy with it in the end up, and it just shows that, persevere, just keep going, because everything that I'm putting into it just now does, add up to where it goes in the final piece. And I think that's the most exciting thing about abstract art. I know there's some types of abstract art that people can do very quickly, and it's, so impactful. But for me, I think the kind of storytelling aspect of the whole process is my favourite thing. So I'm bringing out this tissue paper again with the nut and bolt kind of wheel marks on it. I had done a thick layer of white paint on a painting, and then I'd put those nuts and bolts in to make an impression into the paint, and then put the tissue paper over the top to kind of pull the excess back off. And it's been wonderful. I've used it in, I think this is the third piece that I've used that in. So this is the colour blocking. It's not the most vibrant shade of green, but that's okay. It does its job. Maybe I suppose it's quite neutral, really. Overall, it's not an in-your-face colour. However, I would say that this is the beginning of the end. This is me on the home straight now with these big green squares. That's more of the IKEA furniture packaging. So I end up lifting some of that green back off. Do you know, I actually think that the dullness of that green is probably what's actually helped, because, like I said about the kind of vibrant colours and that cadmium yellow being quite a feature of these, I think putting down that duller colour has actually helped visualise where those colours maybe should be, whereas before there was a bit of them everywhere. So now it's actually easier to add them back in because it's not so overwhelming. When I was actually doing it, I didn't think this way. It's only when I'm watching the video back that it's made me realise that I think that's what's happened. The left-hand side's making the right side look a bit more basic now because it is getting more interesting. I think that the white circles on the tissue paper are starting to look a bit like eyes. So I'm about to bring out the big black marker. I see other people using that and it's so effective. Their paintings just come alive with it. And I don't know, maybe I'm just not used to it, or maybe it's because it's a smaller sheet. I'm not sure. But I just feel that I don't get that wow factor from it. And whenever I'm using it, I find myself actually going over it with my paint colours. So I like the fact it does add some darkness. It brings a bit of intensity, but I'm not using it in the way that I intended to use it. I think I just need to get looser with it. So here I'm thinking very radically and I'm trying to basically cover up the whole thing and start again. But fortunately that thought was short-lived and I remove it almost right away. But it does take off a wee bit of that yellow collage. And then when I turn it round, I think, oh, that's quite interesting. So I'm mixing up more blue colours just to try and have, I suppose, a bit less green. I also do quite a lot of painting now, and it really does start bringing it together. So I actually think that the white paint that I'm adding in here, that I'm actually doing a bit more strategically. Like, it's a bit more purposeful. I'm not just trying to wipe out a whole area. I'm also going to use it to remove some of the green, but in a way that some of the green's also kept. Which is one of my favourite things to do. I do really like kind of removing parts of the upper layer to get into those lower layers. So I'm trying to do a bit of blending here just to make the, you know, it's good to have a variety of edges, some sharp and some a bit more blurred. And I think on the painting that's now on the left hand side, the colours on the most left hand side of it do blend together. This poor jelly print circle. I think I try at every stage to add it in and it just doesn't happen. So these two make it into the very final piece. So this China pencil is a recent purchase, and I'm actually very pleased with it because I like the way that you can use it on the wet paint and that it does leave quite visible permanent black lines, but they still look like pencil marks. And I also like the way it handles. It doesn't require a lot of pressure to put marks onto the page. So you get a nice flow with it. So I'm just trying to bring the blues and the reds back in, and what I actually end up doing is making some lovely purple colours. And because they are made up of the cadmium red and primary blue, I think that even though there's no purple on the left hand side, I do think that it works very, very well. So I'm using the lines made with the China pencil as a rough guide here of where to put the paint down. I also like the fact that there is a few layers on here now of collage and paint. And I like the texture that's being created when you put the colours down. It's actually very interesting to see the difference that the layers do make, because the one on the left hand side really has 2 or 3 layers only, and it's very flat looking. It not in a bad way, but it's just got it's smooth looking and it's very clean looking, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But the one on the right has a more, I suppose, aged look to it, maybe more experienced. So I'm mixing up purple just now, and this is one of the very last things that I do to this painting. So I'm just going to add a bit of collage, and I think that might be the final stage. I'm not 100% sure, but I will put Cade's, my grandson's picture of his jelly print that he made on, and I'll put the final picture of this on. And I think I put this one down and I take it back off, and then I put another one down. No, there it is there. You can actually feel it's finished now. It actually feels finished. So this is my grandson's jelly print that he did do by himself. I just guided him. And these are mine. I'm very happy with them. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon, and take care. Bye.